Woo-wee! I got a good one for you folks today. Thank you for tuning in. You are all amazing. Yes, this is the Gunn Show. So welcome back. Welcome back. Presented by MTDCNC. So for those of you who are brand spanking new to this show, let me just welcome you and say, if you've tuned in for guns, like actual weapons, we may talk about that, but that's not the topic of the show. If you've tuned in for muscles, I don't have any of those. My guest definitely does, but I'm not going to announce him just yet, but I don't have any of those. So if you've tuned in for muscles, we can talk about fitness, although that's not also what the show is about. This is the Gunn Show with two N's, which is literally my last name, Tony Gunn. And we are talking about manufacturing, engineering, and humanizing it. When we get out into the world, we all just kind of take for granted our phones and our cars and our computers and the planes we take and pretty much every daggone thing around us, right? Except there are some really brilliant people in the industry making these things and supporting the makers and being a part of an industry that needs some awareness quite significantly because there's a massive skills gap. We need all of you, men, women, I would like to say children too, but that might be illegal. So we'll leave that out for now, but we need everyone. So with all of that being said, welcome to the show. If you've listened to it before, thank you for returning. It means we've done somewhat of a decent job. So thank you so much for returning. This is the Gunn Show. Today, I have a very special guest and a good friend of mine, my buddy Erik. Erik is the director of business at Aeroex Technologies based out of Canada. Yes, the beautiful country to the north of the US. Sometimes we like to visit in the summers. Sometimes we like to play in the winters. It depends on what you're into, but great country for manufacturing and some really, really amazing people up there. So Erik, thank you so much for being a part of the show. I'm so excited to share your story with this global audience to learn a little bit about who you are, how you grew up, what inspired you to be a part of the industry, and the amazing technology that you are the business development or director of business development for.
Hey, thanks, Tony. I appreciate you having me on, and it's definitely awesome being an international guest. Usually that's not the case, but yeah, this is awesome.
Absolutely. So Erik, let's dive right in and get to know you, my friend. So as far back as you want to go is the adorable little Erik running around in his Pampers diapers, or maybe you want to talk about your great professional ice hockey career as a middle school athlete, or what you did going into college, or if you were an artist or creator or whatever it might be, man. The world wants to know more about who you are.
Absolutely. So adorable definitely wouldn't be the word I would use to describe me, but let's go. I started as far back as I remember. I guess would be back in the former USSR. I was born in Georgia, spent some time in St. Petersburg or Leningrad back then, and I moved to Canada when I was 10 years old. And that was a bit of a culture shock for me. It was a huge culture shock, actually. Not speaking the language. I came here with my mother and my brother, and I kind of was thrown to the wolves. I went right into elementary school, grade 5. And that was an interesting experience. Within 3 months, I had a very good grasp of the English language, and kind of got kicked out of the ESL program. And then I started to understand the culture a little bit better. So when I came here, academics was a big focus in school for me. And then when I moved to Canada, I realized that, having done trigonometry and some wild stuff in grade 5 in Russia, when I came here and, we're sitting around the circle reading storybooks, I realized that I no longer really have to try in school to be successful. And that was a bit of a hurdle I realized later on in life. I kind of just made it through, focusing more on the social aspect, more so than on the academic aspect. And then, when I got out of that, I realized that, I don't necessarily know what I want to do with my life. I don't have my parents' money behind me to just go to university and study something, just to say I'm in university now. So I decided to go into the working world, and I had lots of different jobs. I really, I was super interested in law. I wanted to be a paralegal, to the point where I would go to traffic court when I had some free time, and I would just sit there. And I would just sit there, and I would watch the crown attorney or the prosecutors on some of the more intense cases, obviously, and I would see how lawyers would use verbal judo to get their clients out of sticky situations. And I'm like, man, maybe law isn't what I want to do, but this verbal judo thing, this is something, and I really started to pay attention to that. And then I had some not so great jobs afterwards, but there was a lot of lessons learned. And then when I was about 19, I decided, I want to further my education. I went to school for import-export, went to college, and I got a job in logistics shortly thereafter. Now, logistics, I did that for about 13 years. It was a very long time, and progressed through various positions with a very large North American organization. Started in inside sales, moved into operations, was a regional director of the lean program for a while. I decided that I want to make a change in my life, and there was a few opportunities, but the stars aligned, and Aeroex Technologies seemed like a good partnership for myself as an organization to work with. That's what I went for. Now, 2 years later, I know I made the right decision. So that was a little bit about myself.
Established in 1998 and located in Barrie, Ontario, Canada, Aeroex Technologies is a manufacturer of mist collectors and industrial air purification systems. With a mission to create a superior product in an industry where subpar performance was previously normalized, Aeroex specializes in compact machine mount mist collection solutions as well as central industrial air purification systems. Both are equipped with progressive and fiber-bed filter technology for industry-leading filter life and the ability to tackle the most demanding applications. Aeroex air purification systems can be found in production facilities, schools, and medical offices across North America. Yeah, if it's okay with you, I'd like to jump back, and then we'll jump back. I'm going to take these pieces of this timeline and the parts that I grasped as you were flowing through that so smoothly. St. Petersburg is my favorite city in all of Russia. I've been there a couple of times. Do you have any memory of that? Have you been back?
Yeah, so I remember St. Petersburg or Leningrad back then as the most beautiful city, as you mentioned, but also the ugliest at the same time because of my experience there. So I was considered we were a middle-class family, and we lived in it was all the Soviet Union, communist government back then. So you were allotted an apartment, right, or a house, depending on where you lived and the size of your family. So, as a middle-class family, we lived in a community apartment complex, I would call it. And this was normal back then. And we had 5 families living in this one apartment, one floor. The 5 families shared one kitchen and one full bathroom and one half bathroom. One phone, and one of the families, I still remember this. I was maybe 7 years old. We had a great relationship with one of the families. One older lady that lived next to us, we shared a wall with, she constantly accused us of like injecting poisonous gas through the wall or some crazy stuff like that. Yeah, that was crazy. There was a raging alcoholic who was another lady living there. Like, she would come home in the middle of the night screaming crazy stuff. That was rough. And then, the real bad one, I guess, was a couple that lived there. And they did, I don't know what it was they were doing back then, but it had something to do with illegal activity and drugs. And there was one night my mom told me, she woke me up, and there was a really bad smell in the air, some sort of a chemical, and she called the cops. So now, the cops show up in the middle of the night, and they take this couple away. And I still remember this guy as he's being taken away. I'm 7 years old, and he looks at me, he goes, "I swear to God, I'm going to come back to kill you and your family." And that was memorable for sure, right? We're 30 some years later, and I still remember it like it was yesterday. It was a rough life back then, you know. Then the Soviet Union fell apart, and again, being a middle class family, we found ourselves with not much to eat. Not because we didn't have any money to purchase the food, but because there was no food in the stores to buy. It even got to a point where people had rabbits are pretty common to eat in Eastern Europe, but you know, everybody kind of wanted stores to leave the fur on the feet of the rabbits on to so that they know that these aren't cats, that they're rabbits. So it got bad. It got pretty bad there. You know, there's quite a few stories that I can remember that we're probably not going to talk about now, maybe next time. But that's what makes it the most beautiful and ugliest city for me, to my recollection. The architecture is absolutely beautiful. And you know, since I left in '97, I haven't been back since. Military is mandatory in Russia, and until you're 28, if you go back, regardless if you're a citizen of another country, you would go to the army. And by the time the Canadian government realized I was missing, I'd probably be somewhere in the corner of Siberia. So I hadn't gone back since I left.
Do not blame you there. And I really want to give 7-year-old Erik a hug. Oh my gosh. What a crazy
Thanks,
story, man. And yeah, you're welcome. And gosh, the fact that it's so vivid. Well, I'm very happy he didn't make it back, because now I get to know you. And what a treacherous thing to say to a child. So
Yeah.
let's move on from that. My experience in Petersburg was much better than what you just described.
I
walked
there,
around.
that's why.
Yeah, I walked and saw some beautiful fountains. I believe it's I forget the name of they tried to mimic the area over in Paris, and I went for
Petrogorsk, I believe it's what it's called
that.
in Russian.
Yes, you know it much better than I do. And the Gulf of Finland, took a little ride there, and I found it to be beautiful, for different reasons, obviously. So you came over to Canada straight away?
Yeah,
Canada straight away, and obviously you were too cool for school because you were smart, right? So you said you went straight into, you realized that school was going to be easy, so let's make some friends. And obviously, if you learn the language that quickly, you are good for you, man. I've been married for a long time, and my wife's first language is Spanish, and I still can only get out about 3 words. So my hat goes off to you 100%. And so all right, so you're in school. How did it go with making friends and making that transition? Because you were smarter than everyone, apparently. So now let's make some friends.
I never said that. I never said that. I just said that the school system wasn't challenging me. Let's just say that. You know, I went to a very I lived in a multicultural area of Toronto when I moved to Canada, and making friends wasn't, you know, all that difficult from a perspective of there were other people of a similar background as myself, and other people maybe of other backgrounds, but were having the same challenge as me, right? They're newer to the country or new to the neighborhood and want to make new friends. You know, when you're 10 years old, it's not overly difficult to make friends, but at the same time, 10-year-old kids can be pretty damn mean, right? So you have to learn how to stand up for yourself. And yeah, it was you know, dealing with a little bit of bullying, which is pretty, I guess back then was normal if you're different, right? And we didn't have as much awareness about that kind of stuff. So you know, that was there, but I can't say it was there was too much of that. Yeah, I guess to answer your question, I focused more on making friends with like-minded people, of various backgrounds, and some are of a similar background to myself. And in fact, a number of those people that I had met in grade 5, I'm still very good friends with to this day. And those friendships are ones that you know, people should value the most, right?
Irreplaceable. We have the stories that we can't share with anyone else when we start
That's
that
right.
young.
And then when you get together with those people, you feel like you're 16 again, right? You kind of have that energy. It's fantastic.
If those stupid mirrors wouldn't get in the way, I would feel 16 all the way, you know. But then like, we're having such a great time. Oh, who's that guy in the mirror? What in the world? Or the next,
just don't look there.
Yeah, or the day after drinking at my age now, I just don't recover the same.
That's right. The recovery process is definitely more difficult.
So we went to Seneca College. Looks like international business was the degree, and then into University of Toronto and Lean Six Sigma, which is something I'm familiar with as well. A great piece of information to understand on how We can help businesses kind of streamline, very similar to a 5S or a lean manufacturing, as you know. And then you mentioned logistics, where I can imagine, streamlining was kind of important. So that Six Sigma kind of fell into place. And now we are at Aeroex, and this is kind of where I want to dive in, because the other you've already mentioned, we've kind of already talked about, and it's not really the focus of what's going on today. And your filtration systems at Aeroex are some of the coolest I've ever seen. Your videos with sucking up smoke bombs are famous, and the technological advancements of how you guys are able to suck up so much of the stuff that I used to breathe in every single day gives me gratitude, not just for you, but what my lungs experience as well. And then I recently saw where you gave back to the education system, which really pulls on my heartstrings as well. And we all need to do that. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit more about Aeroex as a whole, and then maybe slip into your role into Aeroex as well, I'd love to hear more. And I know the audience would also.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Aeroex right when the COVID pandemic had just started. It was the perfect time to start a new career. Yeah, looking back at it, it's good. But experiencing it in the moment was a little bit stressful. I am married. I have a wife and two young kids with a third on the way at the time. Yeah, it was a bit of a stressful time for sure. But I came into Aeroex because I saw the opportunity. As you said, the technology is fantastic. And as I got to learn a little bit about the industry, the product, mind you, I came into it not knowing anything about machining, a little bit about manufacturing, not too much about technical equipment at all. So as I started to understand, let's start with the mist collector product line, because at the end of the day, that is the foundation of what Aeroex Technologies does. I was blown away by the fact that the majority of customers, new customers to Aeroex, when purchasing a mist collector, had this half expectation that it would work. It was like, I'm going to buy this product and I hope it does something. And I had never experienced that before. I'd never, seen any type of product like that. So I realized, hey, there's a gap in the market here, right? Because people are willing to settle for a product that will, 60% of the time will work every time. And we I started to learn more, and then I found that Aeroex really fills a gap of product between the very expensive technologies that are out there. There are a number of fantastic solutions, but they may be cost prohibitive to some. And then there are the competitively priced solutions, but again, don't always work that well. So what Aeroex had done is Aeroex figured out a way to take the technology of the solutions that work. Some of these technologies are progressive filtration, fiber bed filter technology. So these are proven to be the best in the industry. And we were able to make that into a compact, affordable package. So now you've got a product that's priced competitively and definitely works. And once I realized that, I understood that, hey, there's some real opportunity.
Matsura Machinery USA Incorporated, located in St. Paul, Minnesota, is the U.S. subsidiary of Matsura Machinery Corporation in Japan. Since 1935, Matsura has been the forerunner in designing innovative technology and manufacturing solutions to a variety of industries around the globe. Matsura Machinery USA Incorporated delivers unmatched excellence in 5-axis, vertical, horizontal, linear motor, multitasking CNC machine tools, and machines with a powder bed metal AM platform with machining capability. Matsura Machinery USA Incorporated provides the service, applications, and technical field support that have always been the Matsura standard for business. For more information on Matsura products, please contact marketing@matsurausa.com or visit matsura.com. That's pretty cool. I didn't realize personally, because let's see, let me think back and be real honest with the audience real quick, based on the 3 major manufacturing plants I worked in before going into technical sales and traveling the world. We didn't have filtration units on anything, and it smelled like a mess every single day. So I didn't realize what you just said, where 60% is a good number, or we have to really expand our budget in order to find something quality. That's unique to me. So you mentioned a couple of details about your product, but only just briefly just now, that helps you take the best quality and apply it to competitive pricing, so that 60% becomes, is it 100% or 99%, whatever it might be, right? I'll let you explain that. But what are some of those components that you've applied to your system that are the elite best products, and what about those pieces, what's the unique characteristics that's different that allows those to perform better than something else that might only perform 60% of the time?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, getting into filtration, the high end, let's call it technology or premium technology that's out in the field right now is fiber bed filtration. And what fiber bed does, if you imagine a piece of fiberglass, for sake of argument, and it's 6 feet long by 2 feet wide, and you take it and you fold it into pleats, you're going to get a lot of surface area in a small package. So the more surface area you can have in your filter, the more load or pollutants that filter can take. The downside of fiber bed technology is it gets loaded fairly quickly and is expensive to replace filters. So what Aeroex had done when tackling that problem is we looked at it from a perspective of, okay, well, before any of the pollutants hit that fiber bed filter, how can we separate them from the air? So a big part of our success is the progressive filtration stages that lead up to that fiber bed filter. And what we do is we like to use mechanical filtration because it is non-consumable. Our customers like to have a low-cost maintenance product. So these mechanical elements, what they do is they take that fine mist in the air, they coalesce it into larger droplets, draining it back into your machine. So in fact, they do about 85 to 90% of the work. And then any of that real fineness that makes it through gets loaded into the fiber bed filter. But as I said previously, because of the enormous surface area we're able to get into those fiber bed filters, the filter life is industry leading. Our customers are reporting an average of a 2-year filter life on the one replaceable filter on these compact systems that we sell. Then we looked at another problem that the industry had, and that's integration or installation on machines. So I'm sure you've been to many production facilities, and in the past, it was very popular to install a central air filtration system and have it ducted to multiple machines or process points. Now, as companies find themselves having to adapt and make changes very quickly, the central systems don't make as much sense anymore because you're moving machines around constantly. You have to play with balancing the airflow. There are a number of factors that go into it, which guide customers to more directly mounted solutions, right? And that's where we fill the gap with a number of mounting base plates that we have. We like to work with our distributors. We like to work with our customers to develop solutions, machine-specific solutions to make installation, a 30-minute deal. Make it easy for the customer so that they keep coming back, right?
That was going to be my next question. And yes, of course, we want them to keep coming back. Which was, if I don't have any right now, how easy is it to add? If I have some that are 60% functioning and I want something with higher quality at the same price point, how easy is it to remove the old and replace? And then the third question of that, I've seen some of your discussions on LinkedIn where you talk about real estate space as well, because it's not going to be beside the machine on either side, front, back, side, whatever it might be. You guys pretty easily seem to be able to mount them to the top in an area that's almost unused anyway. How does all of that work?
Absolutely, very good question. So, when we talk about the systems that work 100% of the time, they are typically larger, and they do take a lot of that real estate space, which again is a very hot commodity nowadays. So, what happens is we took that progressive filtration fiber bed technology, we put it in a small package. I'm going to use the Misfit 550 as an example here. That is our most popular unit by far, and with a footprint of 15 inches by 15 inches. Now, all of a sudden, it's not that difficult to get it on top of your machine, and we try to avoid plumbing it in using suction hose through very elaborate mounting base plates. We work with many different machine tool distributors, and as new machines come out, we collaborate on integration features and mounting accessories. So, very good point. These larger systems that were positioned on the floor before, as machines are moving around, customers want that floor space, and they come to us for a machine mountable solution.
Awesome. I like that. I like that a lot. And you know what? One of my favorite things, which attracted me to you guys, even in the beginning, before I knew the quality, was the name. I'm a big fan of the name, The Misfit. I've always felt like a misfit myself, and I feel like a lot of people in our industry are kind of misfits, right? So it really fits in.
Yeah, we at Aeroex, we're all proud to say we're all misfits, and the Misfit product line definitely describes us well. And we like fun names, so we just launched a new product that you're going to see on LinkedIn and all over social media, and we lovingly called it the Blow Box. So it's going to be a parts blow off station. Essentially, it's a box that you blow your parts off into. So it's a Blow Box.
Let's not complicate things, right? Let's give them quality, memorable names, and they do what they do.
That's right.
So let's talk a little bit more and expand into your product range, because I follow you on LinkedIn. You have some great posts, and I see the Misfit, which you mentioned as being your most popular, and I believe it was the 550 you mentioned as the most popular, and it goes on to every machine, right? And correct me if I'm wrong there, but you guys, anyone can call you at any time and say, hey, I have whatever machine. You go, don't even worry about it. We can put it on there. Don't even worry about it. But you have an array of products as well that go into larger industrial spaces, and kind of goes back to what you said, where something like the Misfit, instead of applying the full system that goes down, it has one suction for all the machines and goes down to each machine. And you talk about, moving the machines around, and which is all very true. It makes all the sense in the world. You do also cater to that part of the industry as well. Am I wrong?
That's correct. No, you're not wrong. So the Misfit is our compact product line. We do have our Aero product line, which is more of the premium mist collectors that would be used in a central application, or maybe some of those more demanding applications, such as maybe a bridge mill or a grinder using oil. Some of the real demanding applications. So as the Aero product line, we've also got the Iris product line, which you had mentioned a little bit earlier with schools, but that's not the entirety of the Iris product line. So the Iris line was designed to be an industrial and commercial air purification solution. So we have a customer, for example, that's working with red cedar. And if you know anything about red cedar, as it's being processed, it does release a toxic fume. So we had supplied some systems for that. Schools are a great example. So as I said, I came into Aeroex right when the COVID pandemic had just started, and there were a lot of opportunities that had opened up in that sense. I shouldn't say opportunities, but customers came to us looking for solutions, right? So it all started with the dental industry at the time, and there was a mandate that they had something in the operatories to help prevent the spread of aerosolized particulates, right, while they're doing their work. And they had approached us. I went to the engineering team, and me being new to this industry, I'm like, hey, let's take some of this outside perspective that I've got, and then let's look at other ways we can apply this fantastic technology that we've got. And we branched out into many different categories, and I can expand on that in a minute. But to give you to answer your question, we have the three main product lines: the Misfit, which is our compact mist collectors; the Aero, which is our central mist collection solutions and our industrial air purification systems; and then the Iris, which is more in the commercial side.
The future of American manufacturing isn't a talking point or a pipe dream. It is here and now. Companies like Methods Machine Tools are hiring all across the country for positions ranging from entry-level to service technicians and senior engineers. Methods Machine Tools is a CNC tool importer that prides itself on providing world-class service and support to manufacturers across North America. Methods has built a culture over 60 years as one of the best companies in the industry to work for, based around work-life balance, shared knowledge, and education. Learn more about Methods by visiting www.methodsmachine.com. So with these products, do the customers typically contact you, the end users? Do you have a lot of partnerships with the machine dealers out there? Are you looking for more partnerships? And if you are looking for more partnerships, in which countries? Because with the information you're providing to me, it's almost irresponsible not to at least give you guys a look, right? If I'm out there, whether I'm an end user or a machine dealer. So what goals do you have, and what currently exists that you'd like to expand on?
So that's great. So yes to all of the above. We definitely work with end customers, and a lot of that business, kind of comes to us, right? So as the Aeroex brand has gained popularity, more end users are familiar with our products, whether it's because they got them on a machine that they just purchased from a distributor, or they saw it on a YouTube video from Grimsmo Knives, or whatever the case may be. They come to us for those the end customer solutions. We have a number of partnerships with machine tool distributors, whereby they supply our mist collector as a standard mist collector when requested by the customer. We have other partnerships with machine tool distributors that may not supply ours by default, but will source mist collectors from us because the customer had spec. And we are always looking to grow our distribution network. So right now, North America is really our main focus. We have a number of distributors in Canada that we have great partnerships with. Same thing goes for the United States, but we're definitely looking to expand. We're definitely looking to get our product out into the hands of more end users, so that they can understand what the air quality in their shop could be like. And not only the air quality, but all the surfaces. And this is fresh on my mind because I just came from a customer's location yesterday where we are putting in 42 mist collectors. We're putting a mist collector on every one of their machines, and every surface in that shop was covered in a coolant residue, right? Because as we're installing, and I like get my hands dirty. I have to get my hands dirty to be able to speak to the technology. So as I'm on top of the machine mounting this mist collector, I'm now covered in this coolant residue. I'm thinking, this is going to be fantastic. 6 months from now when they don't have to deal with this, right? So North America is the market that we're targeting now, and definitely always looking to expand our partnerships with distributors.
Awesome. I love it. And our lungs are kind of something we should value, right? I mean, if we haven't learned anything else recently, our lungs are kind of a big deal.
Yeah, definitely. So we find more and more conversations starting now because, maybe not because people are worried about, oh my God, I'm going to get COVID, but more so, hey, if I do catch COVID, how's my body prepared for it? And what has happened, inside my body over the last 30 years in this machine shop as I've been breathing this in, right? So those conversations are taking place more and more out in the field, and the health and safety committees are getting involved, and mist collectors are definitely a solution that's being implemented more widely now. I wasn't around 20 years ago, but when I talked to Doug Fowler, our president at Aeroex, he's been doing sales since day one, and he said 20 years ago people were wondering, hey, is this stuff bad for me that I'm breathing in? Now you don't have to educate so much anymore. Now people are definitely more educated to the harmful nature of metalworking fluids in the air.
Yeah, my first job, asbestos was everywhere, and we were actually a part of the removal, which was fun. So to your point, I do think back and go, what have my lungs been through already? Yeah, very, very valuable point there. So I saw a post of yours recently, and then now we're going to go back into a little bit more fun, if that's right with you, Erik. And it was
definitely, absolutely.
You took a poll and you said, which smell is worse, coolant or oil? But you might even have some outside perspectives of what might be even stinkier than those. But I'm looking at the post right now, and it was split even 41% and 41% right down the middle. So there are equal amount of people who really detest the bad smells of oil and really detest the bad smells of coolant. What's your vote?
So my vote is you don't need to worry about it if you've got a misfit. I will say one of my most memorable moments, as I just joined this industry, was walking into a machine shop that didn't have very good coolant management, and the smell of bacteria in the air was, yeah, it was something to remember.
Yeah, I've been there too, brother. Oh my
That's right.
goodness.
That's
So
right.
as we're closing this thing out, my friend, and I've really enjoyed your conversation, so much so that I'll probably have you back on and talk more about all the other parts of your upbringing and schooling and some of those stories you didn't share today. But I've really enjoyed this conversation. I like to close out slowly at your convenience. There's no rush, but advice. And you can give that advice based on perspective of Aeroex and why someone would really need to consider just filtration in general. It could be the skills gap. It could be the kids that we need to get into this. It could be the determination and triumphant return of Mr. Erik as he was growing up. And, as a 10-year-old kid with some of the bullies. I'm obviously rambling now because on this show, we never prepare for questions, as you listeners know. And sometimes I'll ramble a bit just to give my guest a little bit of time to think about what the answer will be. But now, Erik, I am done rambling and I will let you take the stage, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. So, as I'm sure everybody listening to this could tell, I also came unprepared and was ready for just a good conversation. I guess the piece of advice that I will give, and I had this conversation recently with my nephew. So when I came to Canada, and then I was a little 10-year-old kid in grade 5 that didn't speak the language, I would look around our classroom, and there was all kinds of posters and everything, and one that really resonated with me was a poster with the moon and stars there. And I figured out what it said after a little while, and it said something along the lines of shoot for the moon and you'll land somewhere amongst the stars. So that would be the piece of advice I would give to the kids that are just getting out of, whether it's school or college, or moving on to the next chapter of their life. Don't be afraid to overachieve. Don't be afraid to think that you can do it. Don't doubt yourself. It's very important. I will say sometimes a little bit of fake it till you make it applies. But don't be afraid to shoot for the moon, and you won't be disappointed with the result. That's really been something that I've lived by, and has I would say made me successful in many ways. And then I'll close it up with a little bit of industry relevant advice. Many of you that are listening to this podcast may work in an environment where you feel improvements can be made. And, don't be afraid to either shoot us a message or an email or a phone call. We're a very approachable group of people. Most of the time you'll likely get myself, and I'm always open to have a conversation and a good chat, and make some recommendations. I always, as a shopper, I like options, so I always give people a number of options. And hey, if the stars don't align, that's fine, but at least hopefully you will have learned something from our conversation, and maybe later on we can do business together or not. But I like having these conversations, and I like helping people think in the direction of improvement. So there you go.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Professional way to close this out. For all of those who are listening, thank you so much. This is my buddy Erik, Director of Business Development at Aeroex Technologies, continuous improvement, turning complex ideas into reality, talent to task alignment. And may I just say, and I'm going to pronounce this all sorts of wrong, spasibo.
That was very good, Tony. Thank you for having me on, and I'm looking forward to the next time we're able to do this, and I'll be happy to share some more stories.
You are a joy, my friend. I appreciate you.
Thanks, Tony.